Hey, so this is going to be a really quick video for Karis on the Squarespace Help group. I'm really sorry I've probably butchered your name. Maybe it's Carice, maybe I'm nowhere near it, so correct me at some point. But yeah, here goes. You wanted to recreate this image, but with CSS for like the text and the box and the border and things like that. All good. Let me show you how I would do it. So I've got a test site here. This is a stack image rather than a card image, which is what you've used. And I put those two there just as a point of reference so that in a minute I can show you why. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to target the section. And I'm going to open some curly brackets, and then I'm going to leave two comments. So your code, ignore this. And the ignore this bit is literally because I don't like using the site styles half the time. So I'm going to probably need important. Do some things for my own benefit, like changing that background to white so it matches better. And some of the things like styling of this text, obviously, and the box can be done through site styles, and you don't need to use CSS for. And I'd advise you use site styles. I'm just doing it for my own personal convenience. Right, so the first thing, let's do border. So it's the intrinsic element, I believe. Let's just test this. That needs a border. Let's do 5 pixels. Let me copy from elsewhere the color code, and it's going to be solid. There we go. Just so that it's a little bit more visible, I'm actually going to make it 10 pixels. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute. In fact, I'm going to shift this here just so that you can see my code a bit more clearly. The next thing I want to do is I want to reposition this text box. So that's going to be the image card wrapper, I want to say. Let's find out. Image card wrapper. Let's just be display none. Yep, I was targeting the correct element. That's great. A little trick for checking I've found the right thing. First, let's give it a background. Actually, I've got your blue color saved here. You don't need to do this. This is just because it's going to make it a bit easier for us to see. And color white. So I'm going to quickly move this little section of code into your ignore this bit. And yeah, that's literally just so that I can see it. And I'm going to add one more thing. Image card wrapper. Should get it. There we go. So this bit I'm doing here, you don't need to do. It's just to save me a little bit of back and forth dealing with the editor. Okay, maybe I need this on a. There we go. Right. So the reason why I did that, apart from the fact that you're going to want that blue box, but it's also just so that we can see the sizing. Back to you. So first we need to reduce the width. So let's do that. Width 90% seems good. Then we need it centered. So let's do margin auto. All good. Then now if I inspect it, I believe it has an automatic margin top. There you go. Yeah, on the image card wrapper. So let's get rid of that. Margin top, none. Also not none, sorry, 0. And it probably needs an important. You can get away with that. I'm sorry, with not using importance, because that probably isn't always the best practice if you target, the specific element. But the way Squarespace targets it through its parents, I'm just not going to get into that at the minute. This is another reason why, just if you look at the card, so these are the image cards, this is the image stack, they do act a little bit differently. So that's kind of why I left them for comparison. The reason why I got rid of the margin top is, if you look at your example, it's been shifted up by like 80% of its height. So I can use a transform, not a transform. Transform, translate y minus, let's do 75%, and see it overlaps pretty neatly. I'm gonna increase that padding just to make it resemble yours a bit better. And yeah, I'll put it on the image card wrapper. One moment, padding, let's do 1 rem, 1.6 rem. Ooh, that is a lot. Let's do 0.5. That's close enough, I suppose. Maybe I don't want it on the image card wrapper. Maybe I want it on this element for my own sake. You know what? That's probably just close enough for our purposes for the time being. I know it's a bit shifted, but this is just for visuals for me. If you adjust the padding yourself through site styles, it'll be neater, especially for these. Okay, so where were we? To be honest, like that's most of what you need, except just you've got this annoying image overlay here. And I think it's literally, the class is called image-overlay. Yeah, it is. So we want to remove that because it does overlap and you can't change it with the index, and this is genuinely just the quickest way. And you won't be needing an image overlay because you're not putting anything on top of the image, so we can just display none and import. Right, move that, important. And that basically gets you most of the way there. This jankiness here is because my padding is a bit dodgy. However, you might want to adjust the padding yourself. There is one other thing though. So on larger screens, this was kind of the reason why I didn't want the image cards, because you would have to do a whole extra bunch of CSS to adjust that positioning. But anyway, on larger screens, it can get a bit messy. And also, let's see if I can just show you what I'm talking about here. Can you see that's the intrinsic and that's the container? On the image cards, sometimes that can overflow and that can really mess with things. So I guess the last thing to do here is just fix this up, isn't it? And honestly, I would actually, so here's all your CSS, you've got your border, you've got your image card wrapper. Instead of targeting the image card wrapper, I'd actually do just the image card. And, let's say we leave it 1 rem of padding. That looks pretty close. You would probably drop this border here down to maybe 4 pixels, or maybe even 5. And I can't tell if that's a bit of rounding, but if that is, you could just do border radius, I don't know, like 2 pixels, maybe, yeah, 8's too much, maybe 4 pixels. There you go. And that's pretty much it. This Mrs. Smith style, I feel like, is making this feel as though the text isn't fully centered, but it is. And obviously, big screens, it works nicely with the inline block. If you have the joys of Michael Square Websites' extension, we can have a look at the tablet view and we can have a look at tablet landscape. So this was the other point I wanted to sort of bring up, is obviously on smaller screens, you're going to want to consider responsivity, stacking, etc. I'm not going to go into that here, but you might want to consider making these stack on mobile or on mobile and tablet. And you might also want to consider maybe smaller text size, reduced padding, etc., etc. But there is your code. It's target the section, put a border on intrinsic, reduce the... my mouse is jumping about. reduce the width of the image card wrapper, add a margin auto so it centers it, translate it, like I said, roughly 75% is quite good, and remove the image overlay, and maybe add some padding onto the image card class. And if you really wanted to use image card blocks, as you can see, it would be pretty easy to adapt. You just have to do a little bit more to reposition. So I hope that helps.